Welcome to the Explainer. Okay, let's dive right into this ancient yet incredibly relevant crisis management case study straight out of the Mahabharata. Now, you might be thinking, this is just a dusty old story about a dice game gone wrong, but actually, scratch that. It is a profound, step-by-step masterclass in what happens when leadership completely collapses and how the people around that leader have to desperately maneuver to mitigate the disaster.
So think about this for a second. It's a heavy question, isn't it? What would you do if the person in charge gambled away everything you loved? This question literally drops us directly into the high stakes of our source text. We're talking about a situation where a kingdom, a fortune, and a family's very survival are suddenly on the line. And the craziest part? The threat isn't an invading army from the outside. No, it's a catastrophic failure of judgment from the inside. Let's watch how this kingdom crumbles.
All right, part one, the maddening dice game.
Right off the bat, look at the stark psychological contrast between our two central figures here. On one side, we have King Nala. The text describes him as maddened and deprived of his senses, completely absorbed by the dice. He is in the grips of a total behavioral collapse. But then, on the other side, his wife, Queen Damayanti, remains remarkably cool-headed. Even as she's watching this massive calamity threatening her husband unfold in real time, she doesn't panic. She analyzes. And this dynamic right here, it sets the stage for absolutely everything that follows.
Which brings us to part two. A desperate intervention fails.
See, Damayanti wasn't just sitting there grieving. She was a full-on political tactician executing a desperate intervention. First, she immediately assesses the material damage, calculating exactly what's been lost so far. Then, she brings in her most trusted ally, the faithful nurse Indrasena, and uses her to quietly summon the king's councillors. Finally, she rallies the very citizens of the kingdom to appear before the king in a body. It's a brilliant four-step plan. She's essentially dropping the entire weight of the state onto his shoulders, just hoping to snap him out of his trance.
But despite this masterful orchestration and despite his own subjects standing right in front of him, the text hits us with this absolutely devastating line. But the king regarded her not. He is just so far gone that his people and the desperate pleas of his own wife don't even register. Shamed and completely ignored, Damayanti is forced to retreat. The kingdom's last hope to save the king has officially failed.
Okay, move into part three, Damayanti's plan for survival.
Realizing the dice are just uniformly unfavorable, Damayanti has to make a really tough executive decision. She pivots from saving her husband to saving the future. Before enacting her final plan, she diagnoses Nala's addiction with his terrifying precision. She sees that the dice are falling entirely obedient to his opponent, Pushkara. The game's already lost. But here's the truly fascinating part. The ancient text explicitly notes that the more Nala loses, the greater his ardor for the play becomes. It perfectly captures that spiraling nature of addiction, right? A man whose obsession grows precisely as his ruin accelerates. And he is completely isolated, totally deaf to the words of his friends, his relatives, and his wife. The king is unreachable.
So, what do you do? What do you do when the king won't listen, and the kingdom's wealth is evaporating with literally every roll of the dice? Well, you have to secure the assets that haven't been lost yet. Damayanti summons their trusted charioteer, Varshneya, for one desperate final contingency plan.
She looks at Varshneya and delivers this crucial directive. The king may come to grief. Do thou take these twins. She commands the charioteer to yoke Nala's favorite fleet horses. These are steeds with the fleetness of the mind, and evacuate the royal heirs. What's so incredible here is Damayanti's sheer grace under pressure. Even in this moment of ultimate betrayal, she actually absolves Nala of blame, stating that it's his absorption in the play, not his true soul that's at fault. Yet, despite that deep empathy, she strips him of his heirs for their own protection, ordering Varshneya to speed to Kundina and leave the children safely with her family.
This takes us to part four, the charioteer's final mission.
With the chief officers of the king consenting to her plan, a breathless, high-stakes extraction begins. Varshneya speeds away from the collapsing capital in hour one with the young boy and girl, both named Indrasena. For days they ride hard, finally arriving safely in the region of Vidarbha at Kundina on day 3. Following his queen's orders to the exact letter, he leaves the children, the chariot, and the horses with her kindred on day 4. His mission to secure the royal heirs, a complete success. But with his duty done and his home gone, Varshneya is left to wander for weeks with a sorrowful heart, eventually arriving in Ayodhya to enter the service of King Rituparna.
And finally, Part 5, the aftermath of ruin.
We are left with this incredibly poignant, cinematic image of the loyal servant wandering alone, grieving for the virtuous King Nala. A kingdom has been completely lost to the dice, and a royal family has been scattered to the wind. Think about it. The cool-headed queen, left behind in her apartments. The children, exiled in Kundina. The king, entirely lost to his madness. And his most loyal servants are forced to go out and find new masters in distant cities. The systemic collapse is total.
So I want to leave you with this to ponder. If a single person's addiction, a single leader's complete loss of their senses can literally scatter a royal dynasty and force such desperate contingency plans, what unseen ripple effects are our own unchecked habits creating today? It's a really heavy burden of personal responsibility to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, everyone, and keep questioning the narratives around you.